Welcome to Gen Z Hoops, the Gen Z basketball, coaching, and sports business show.
What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Gen Z Hoops podcast. Today, I'm joined by head video coordinator and player development coach for the Denver Nuggets, Coach Cam Griffin. Coach Griffin, how are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing amazing, Ashton. How about yourself?
Oh, I'm doing amazing. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity today. So I'd like to jump into it. Can you talk a little bit about your connection to the game of basketball?
My connection to the game, man. So it's kind of funny. Growing up, I never really liked sports like that. But I have an older brother. He's about 4 years older than me. So I would always go to his basketball games, baseball games, and whatnot. And like a lot of the parents in the crowd, they always used to like give me a hard time, like, hey, why aren't you playing? This, that, and the third. But I was really big into Game Boy, comic book stuff like that. But whenever I was about 9 or 10 years old, that's when I started playing like rec leagues and stuff like that, and just kind of fell in love with competing and stuff like that, and then obviously winning. So that's whenever I kind of got the itch, but it was just from my brother, watching him play each and every day. So.
What were those backyard one-on-ones like? Did you guys ever like hoop against each other?
Oh yeah, for sure. So like he's a football player, but he's a little bit shorter than me. So obviously like whenever I was 10, 11, 12, he would always beat me. And I was that kid that was always crying after I lost. I hate to lose. But then once I became like probably a freshman in high school, that's when we were about the same height. So that's whenever the game started to change a little bit. And I started picking up more wins. So yeah, we had some heated battles though in the backyard for sure.
What was like your favorite player or favorite team like growing up once you started watching like the NBA and stuff like that?
Yeah. So favorite team, I'm from San Antonio, born and raised. So
Okay.
obviously the Spurs,
There we
that
go.
dynasty for about 20 plus years. It was crazy. So I would say Spurs were my favorite team. And then player wise, I loved Magic Johnson growing up. Just his selflessness, he loved to share the ball, loved to get other people involved. So growing up, I really tried to emulate my game after him. I'm only 6'4". I mean, he's 6'8", 6'9". So obviously it's a little different. But then also really liked Trace McGrady growing up,
Okay.
and then Russell Westbrook. So it's kind of weird now that he's with us now. So it's kind of like one of my idols now. I'm going to be able to coach him, and then LeBron James as well. So those guys.
So you played college basketball at the University of Denver. What ultimately made you choose the University of Denver to attend? What was the recruiting process like for you as well?
Uh, it wasn't, to be honest, it wasn't too crazy for me. I only had like probably 6 or 7 D1 schools looking at me or like sending me stuff. So like Wichita State, Cal Poly, Army, and just a few other like smaller like mid-major schools. But whenever I went up there on my visit, it just felt like family to me. Obviously it was like 1,000 miles away from Texas, but right when I got there, everybody seemed so close and stuff. And I made a decision like if I'm going to go to school so far away, I want that school or that team to feel like a close knit circle. And so it felt right. And then it was a pretty high academic school as well. So I kind of got the best of both worlds. So.
And you were captain of the team during your junior and senior season. What were like the biggest challenges of taking on this role?
Biggest challenges, I would say for me, well, first and foremost, like I didn't really play my freshman year. I probably played like 50 minutes that whole year. So like I held myself accountable and I was like, well, if I want to get to where I want to get to, well, then I have to work my butt off. And so I really made it a point of emphasis to go above and beyond what other people on the team were doing. So it allowed me that following year, I averaged about 7 points a game or something like that. And I was playing more. So it was cool to see just like what you could get from putting in the work. But then, like I said, like you said, my junior and senior year, I was afforded the opportunity to be a captain. So that was like a dream come true, something I could check off my list. But I would say the challenge is it's just trying to lead guys, and just serve everybody. Because I think as a leader, I think a lot of people think it's like, oh, look at me, like you do what I say. But in my mind, I think the greatest attribute of a leader is somebody that could serve other people as well. So just trying to figure out how to do that. And obviously we weren't winning as much as I probably wanted to my last 2 years. But it's funny how life kind of comes full circle, because now what I'm doing with coaching and stuff like that, it's kind of serving the players, so it's kind of crazy how life works.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like being like a team captain, being a leader of a team definitely is hard. Like I had that experience when I was in my senior year at Salisbury 2 years ago, my boarding school. My assistant coach was telling me, since I'm not like the most like vocal guy, that I could also be like, they're like leaders that could lead by example. By the way,
Yeah.
like going hard in every drill, always showing up on time, first one in, last one out, like kind of stuff like that. So that always stuck with me. And what you were saying like really stuck with me also about like working your tail off and like kind of like raising up the ranks like as you kept going through the college program. Like I redshirted my first year and like
Mm-hmm.
I just put my head down for a whole year and just like worked, and now I'm here like looking for better
Yeah.
opportunities sophomore year. So
Yeah.
I resonate with you a lot on that level. But
Yeah.
ultimately, when did you know that you could like continue playing basketball at the professional level?
Uh, I mean, it was always a goal of mine once I like set my mind to like playing basketball. I didn't know how real it was until probably like in college, my junior year. But like growing up, I'm from Texas, San Antonio
Right.
originally. And so like I'd play against Jordan Clarkson all the time, Andre Roberson. Like they played with my AAU
Right.
team. I was just like a year younger. So like playing against those guys in practice and stuff all the time, I was like, okay, I could kind of hold my own. And then my freshman and sophomore year, Royce O'Neal, he actually was like an incoming freshman with me. So obviously those battles in practice all the time and pick up, like I'd be holding my own. And I'm like, okay, well, I think I could kind of do this post college. And then Royce ended up transferring to Baylor, and now we know what happened with him. But
Yeah.
I would say like my junior and senior year, once we started playing like the Cows and the Stanfords of the world, and like I was putting up pretty good numbers, so I was like, okay, I think I could play post college, and luckily I was afforded that opportunity. So yeah.
So you ended up playing in the G League for the Texas Legends, the Mavericks affiliate team, and the Stockton Kings, the Kings affiliate team. Can you talk a little bit about that process of getting into the G League and what your experience is like with these two teams?
Yeah, well, for me, the process was uh it was a little different. It's probably a little bit more common now, but like I hired an agent. Well, before that, I was going to like a lot of these mini camps in
Yeah.
Vegas and other cities and stuff like that, just to try to get my name out there and get some exposure. Had some overseas teams hit me up and stuff like that, but I was like, do I want to go overseas, or would I bet on myself and like play domestically in the D League? Well, it was D League at the time when I
Yeah.
played. And so my agent, he was like, well, if you want to play in the D League, just like go to some of these tryouts and stuff. So I went to 2 tryouts. And then fortunately, they liked what they saw. And so they ended up like not picking me up from the draft, but like in the player pool, basically. So, but the whole experience was very cool. My coach for the Texas Legends was Nick Van Exel. So, like, to be able
Wow.
to learn under a great like that, it was super cool. And then with the Stockton Kings, or Reno Bighorns, which is now the Stockton
Yeah.
Kings, head coach was Derek Martin, and he played like
Mhm.
17 years in the NBA. So I'm getting like all this knowledge from these 2 point guards that had long careers in the NBA. So it was cool, great experience. I mean, the D League at the time, I wasn't making a lot of money. So like after my second year, I was like, do I really want to continue to pursue this? So just kind of made a decision that like, it obviously I can't play forever, but I can coach as long as I would like to. So that's whenever I made that transition.
Did any of those coaches, did Nick Van Exel kind of like plant like any gems, any hidden gems, give you any hidden gems into like making your decision later on to like pursue coaching?
Nah, not really. Just because I was one of those guys, like whenever I played, I was like, I would never coach, man. Like I would like my college coach, he'll be running down like our rebounds and stuff like that. And
Yeah,
I'm like, man, that couldn't be me.
I say
And
the
then
same thing.
I got done playing. I'm like, dang, what do I know better than basketball? And really it was kind of like a no-brainer for me, like just helping people out and then just being a part of the game, staying a part of the game. Like it was like a dream come true, and it doesn't feel like work.
Can you talk before we get into your coaching career some more? Can you talk a little bit about what the transition was like from the college level to playing in the D League?
Oh man. I think the biggest thing is one, the pace of the game, because in college the shot clock's
Right.
longer. There's like no defensive 3 seconds in the paint or whatever like that. So the rules and stuff was completely different. The speed of the game was different. And then I would say the second biggest thing was like the physicality, like in college, you could be physical and stuff like that. But like, I mean, once you get into the pros, you're playing against grown men, and
Yeah.
like they're playing for their livelihoods and stuff like that. So it took some time to get adjusted to that. But once I did get adjusted, I was like, okay, I know I could kind of hold my own and stuff like that. But I mean, I think that's a big thing for a lot of even like young rookies. The league's getting younger and younger every year. So like we have 18 or 19-year-olds coming from high school, or like freshmen in college. Now they're coming into the league. And I could say like that's probably some of those guys' biggest adjustments as well. It's just the physicality of the game.
Would you say that you guys were running less sets? Like, you know how college is like way more like set orientated, like
Yeah.
bring it down, like let's get into our stuff. But like I don't is like are the pros like that when your experience?
Well, I think my situation was like very unique because I ran the Princeton offense in
Okay.
college. So
Yep.
my college coach underneath Pete Carril, who is the inventor of the Princeton offense. So every time we came down the court, we didn't necessarily run a set, but like it was just like kind of actions, we were just like reading, reacting and stuff
Right.
like that. And I would say for us here with the Nuggets, we do that. Like, I mean, playing with Nicola, I mean, it's all not all read and react. We have a few sets and stuff, but for the most part, it's like a lot of read and reactions off of a concept, So like a wide screen, like we'll run that, but then we're just playing after that. We're not really like, hey, you need to do this, you need to
Right.
do that. You're just kind of reading and reacting towards the defense. So I do think though, for most people in college, they're running a lot more sets than we were
Right.
running.
I do. What's amazing though, like funny thing you mentioned Nikola Jokic. The craziest thing about whenever I watch the Denver Nuggets, these guys like know exactly like where to be at the right time. Like you see guys like Gordon, Christian Brown coming into the game. They know to be in that dunker spot at like the right
Yeah.
exact moment. And they get those easy like 2-point dunks on the baseline all the time, especially when the double team is coming. I remember like last season you guys played the Lakers in LA. Austin Reeves went and gambled for one. He knew exactly where the guy was.
Yeah.
Threw it at AG, dunk the
Yep.
other way. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
like astonished watching all those games.
Hey, you and I both, man. I see him every day, and I'm like always like, how did you know that's gonna happen?
Yeah,
How did you see that? But like, I think for us, and we're fortunate to have like that core group of guys. They've been playing together for so long, So I think like whenever they first came, it took some time to get to where it is now, But after 6, 7, 8 years of playing with one another, they kind of know where the other person's going to be and whatnot.
and that pick and roll with Jamal Murray. Oh my God, you can't guard that. That's like the most unguardable tandem like pick and
And
roll I've ever seen in my life.
hey, the best two-man game in the NBA. I'm biased because I work with the Nuggets, but I think it's unstoppable.
No, it
And
is. Look what it took the Timberwolves to do in order to like pose a threat. Like it was insane.
yeah,
Like so
yeah,
much double team, so much blitzing, Murray trapping,
mhm.
like trying to make it uncomfortable. But like at the end of the day, like not every team is gonna do that. Like
Oh yeah,
not every
exactly.
team has the personnel to do that. Like it's the most
Mhm.
unguardable pick and roll in basketball I've ever watched. I just have
Yeah.
to say
Hey,
that.
I appreciate that, man. I appreciate it.
So your first coaching job was at the Village School. What was this experience like for your first coaching job?
Man, it was honestly, besides like my first year with the Nuggets when we won the championship, it was probably my most rewarding and enjoyable year coaching, just because. So like after I finished my second year, I was like, do I want to continue to play? But at the time, like I was working out and training and living with my brother in Houston. And so just to make some extra money, I was just like training kids on the side, and I had this one kid in particular, and he was about like 14, could not even do a left hand layup when I first
Okay.
like started working him out. And then like 2 months later, or like 3 months later, we'd play one-on-one, and he's like hitting step back jumpers on me and stuff. I'm like, wait, what? But like that gave me the confidence to know, like, okay, I could be pretty good in this coaching thing, like developing kids and stuff. So that's whenever it all started. And so once I made up the decision that I wasn't going to go back to the G League, was fortunate to get a coaching job with the Village School. So basically, it's a private school in Houston. And during that time, I was coaching. I was the sixth grade girls and the seventh grade girls head coach, and then a varsity assistant. And at that school, like all the kids, for the most part, they never played sports. They were just doing it just to, kill some time. So I had a lot of girls that it was the same thing. Couldn't make a left hand layup, couldn't make a right hand layup, but like we were working each and every day. And like towards the end of the season, or once the season ended, we only lost one game. So we are like 9-1, ended up winning the championship and stuff like that. So like for me to see girls that never played basketball ever in their life, but then work hard and be able to reap the benefits of their hard work by winning a championship, it was just like super rewarding to me. And I was proud of those girls. So like I said, that's the main reason why that was my most enjoyable year coaching, just because I felt like I was like serving and giving back to the game, because the game has given me so much over the course of the time that I've been playing.
So later on in your coaching career, I know we're going to get to it. You ended up coaching college basketball, and now, of course, you're coaching in the NBA. What's the difference between coaching men and women?
Oh man. I think like women, they are more inclined to do what you say. Like they'll do whatever. If I'm
Right.
like run through this wall, they'll run through the wall, Guys, it's like they have to kind of like, you have to get their respect, especially at
Yeah.
this level in the NBA. But then on the flip side, it might have been just the time in which I was coaching middle school and high school girls. So it
Right.
was like a lot of drama, man, a lot of drama. I was like, I don't know if I can deal with this anymore. Like I'm 30 years old right now. I have some grades. And I'm like, it might be from that year right there. But I mean, like with all that being said, it was such a fun group that I had, and such a rewarding experience.
You then were a grad assistant at Abilene Christian University. What was this experience like, and how did it come about? Also, you ended up playing Kentucky in the first round. I want to know, what was that experience like as well, playing against
Yeah.
the 2018 Kentucky Wildcats in the first round of the NCAA tournament?
Yeah. So whenever I got done playing, in my mind, I was like, I always want to be a college coach. So after that first year of coaching at the Village School, obviously it was a great experience, but I was like, I kind of want to get back onto like, well, coach on the men's side, and then do it at a college level. So what I was doing, I was just reaching out, like cold calling or sending cold emails to coaches, anybody that was on the staff. And fortunately, Brett Tanner, at the time he was the associate head coach for ACU, he got back to me. He was the only person to get back to me. He was like, hey, we have this camp, can you come coach this camp for us just for the weekend? I was like, heck yeah, not knowing that it was going to be an interview essentially. So I do that for a week. At the end of that week, they're like, hey, we want to offer you this GA position. So I was like, man, I'm thankful, fortunate for the opportunity. And so I do that. And at the time I didn't really know anything about Abilene Christian. I just knew that they're a Division I school. And like, if you like, let's say if you go to a college list and hit like the list of schools, Abilene Christian is the first school that pops up, because
Right.
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
I was like, oh, let me hit them up. So do that, got that opportunity. And over the course of like the months of the season, I was like, dang, okay, we're pretty good. We just kept winning and winning and winning. And fortunately, we go to the Southland Conference tournament. I think we're like second. It was us and Sam Houston State. They were first, we were second. So we had a bye, I want to say our first like round. So we don't play that game, but then we play our second game against New Orleans, or no, Southeastern Louisiana, and they're pretty good. They got our number during the season, but we were fortunate to win that game. Meanwhile, Sam Houston State, they lose their first round game. So we're like, oh, this is perfect, man. So we played New Orleans, got fortunate, ended up winning that game. So it was surreal for me, because as a player, I never went to the NCAA tournament. Like I
Mhm.
went to the NIT and stuff like that, but just never was able to get to the big dance. So it was like a dream come true in that sense, being able to make the tournament. And then we play Kentucky. And so on that Kentucky team, it's like Keldon Johnson, PJ
Shay.
Washington, Nick Richards, Tyler Hero. So I'm like, man, we got our work cut out for us. And so, like, I mean, we probably scored 40 points that game to their like 90. But I mean, our guys fought. We played as hard as we could. And like just being in that atmosphere, in that environment, it was crazy, man. Like after like the first media timeout, like I'm handing out the board to the coach. I'm looking around, I'm like, dang, this is like big time basketball, you know? And so like it's also cool to see probably 7 years later, 6 years later, all those guys, they're still in the league and they're having pretty good careers as well. So even though we lost to a team full of pros, so could be worse, you know.
What was Cal doing on the sideline the whole game? Was he screaming a lot?
Yeah, and I think like that was kind of cool to see because like even though they're up big, he was still holding his guys accountable, still coaching those guys each and every possession. So I was like, okay, I can respect that. You know, he wasn't just down chilling, like, oh, okay, next 5 in, you know. So
You then became an assistant at the United Air Force Academy. What was it like managing running the team's social media account, player development workouts, and being the team's video coordinator all along with coaching the team?
well, it wasn't too daunting of a task just because whenever I was at Abilene Christian in regards to the social media stuff, like I did a lot of our social media. So like I was making a lot of graphics and stuff like that. So that wasn't too tough. I think the toughest thing for me was like getting acclimated to their lifestyles and stuff like that, you know, because these kids, they're having to wake up at like 6 in the morning. They're having like people come into their room, inspecting their room, and then they'll like start their days, you know. So they're doing all this schoolwork, and then basketball hits. So you know you have like a 3 hour window to do basketball, and then after basketball, they have military obligations that they had to attend to, you know. So I think for me that was the biggest adjustment. But like after seeing it up close and personal, I was like, man, I respect the hell out of these kids because like me being 17, 18, I'm like, I don't know if I could have did that, you know, but like, yeah, but it was like a really enjoyable experience just because I was coaching with my head coach at the University of Denver. So a
Oh,
lot of the coaches on that coaching staff, I was familiar with them. And even though I was in like a place that I wasn't familiar with, the people made it like comfortable for me. You know what I'm saying?
you probably made him feel so old in that moment.
Yeah, just a little bit. And I was like, man, it's just funny how world like life comes full circle, you know? Like who would have ever thought whenever I was playing that I would like be coaching under my coach, you know? But hey, here we are, you know?
Yeah, you never know what's going to happen down the line or what opportunity is going to present itself. I'm a firm believer in that. Just live in the present though, and then we'll figure it out.
Exactly, man.
So you started working for the Denver Nuggets as an assistant video coordinator. How did you get this position, and what was the transition like to start working for an NBA team?
So how did the opportunity come about? So it was like the beginning of my second year at the Air Force Academy. I was like, man, and like, well, before Air Force, I was assistant coach at a junior college called Chipola Junior
Okay.
College. So did that and then went to Air Force for those 2 years. And like during my second year, I was like, this is great, but like NIL was just becoming a thing. And I was like, man, I know the landscape of college basketball is about to change. And for me, like I got into coaching to coach basketball. You know, with college athletics, it's like you're coaching basketball, but you're also doing grade checks and you're or class checks, and you're also doing compliance stuff. And it's just a lot of other stuff other than basketball. So I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna try to bet on myself and you know, try to get into the league. So I was just doing the same thing that I did whenever I was trying to get into college basketball, just emailing a lot of people, not asking for a job, but asking guys like, hey, could I like get on the phone with you for a few minutes and just like get to know what your journey is, just like what you're doing right now, you know?
Yeah.
So just wanting to pick guys' brains, and a lot of guys, they're actually inclined to help me out and like tell me their story and stuff like that. And so this is crazy. So Tommy, our assistant GM, you guys actually had him on an episode like probably 3 years ago, 4 years ago. So I listened to that episode and I was like, okay, at the time I was living in Colorado Springs. And so I hit him up on LinkedIn. He messages me back. And then so I get on the phone with him. So we were talking and stuff like that. And whenever I was a senior in college, after my career was done, I had a pre-draft workout with the Nuggets. So like they kind of remembered who I was. And so the conversation happened, and then he was like, hey, stay in contact with me. And then he also put me in connection with, at the time, who was the head video coordinator, Andrew Munson. So reached out to him, stayed in contact with him while I was also talking to other teams. And so I want to say it was like a few weeks before summer league Andrew Munson, he hits me up and he's like, hey, would you be interested in this assistant video coordinator position? And I'm like, heck yeah, dog. Like at the time I was living like right by Ball Arena. So I sit down with him, kind of have an interview. And after that, like a few weeks later, he offered me the job. So I was like, wow, well, that's a blessing in itself. And it's just kind of crazy how life works, because whenever I was at the University of Denver, I would go to the Nuggets games and sit there and be like, man, how cool would this experience be, or like opportunity be for me to either play or like do something with the Nuggets, you know? And so, you know, that happens. And that first year, I was just trying to keep my head above water, man. Like so much stuff was happening. I got hired like 3 weeks before training camp. So like trying to figure out the film stuff, and then training camp happens. And then obviously right after training camp, it's like preseason and then the season, you know? So just trying to keep my head above water. But the good thing about the Nuggets is like everybody's so great and so helpful in that organization. So like I felt like comfortable right whenever I got there. But one of the biggest adjustments for me was just like seeing these guys up close and personal, you know, like I would see Nicole on TV all the time and stuff. And I remember vividly me and another video coordinator, Connor Griffin, we're like just talking. He's already been there for a year. And then like my first time ever meeting Nicole, he like walks into our video room. I'm like, oh, damn. And like Connor's like, what's up, man? So I meet him and stuff. And like, I was like, wow, he's just as cool as in person as he is like on these interviews and stuff like that. And so I think that was probably one of the biggest adjustments, me just trying not to get starstruck from these guys. But, you know, after like the first week in the gym, like all that wears off, because you're there just trying to help and assist these guys and like trying to get them better ultimately, you know?
Yeah, of course. So how did it feel to be a part of that 2023 championship team?
Man, it was crazy. Like I said, I didn't know what was going on that whole year. I was just like working, trying to keep my head above water. But like I had a feeling like, okay, we'll be pretty good. That's what Andrew Munson told me. Like whenever I was interviewing with him, he was like, we might have a chance to be pretty good if everybody comes back healthy, you know? And I was like, man, whatever. And then we just win all these games and like go to the All-Star game my first year. And so that was a surreal experience, like being on the same team as LeBron, you know? So there's like a lot of these crazy experiences that I went through that first year. But then like we get to the finals and like all the cameras and stuff are there. I was like, wow, this is like stuff that you dream about whenever you're a kid. And I'm able to like live out my dream my first year in the league, you know? So it was an amazing experience, man. Like, and me experiencing that like makes me want to relive it again, you know? So like, that's why we're working so hard in the off season, trying to get back to, you know, try to get a run at another title.
So I mean to ask you this question. I've been meaning to talk to someone from the Nuggets for a while because I've since the playoffs, and I finally have this opportunity. So you know how Jamal Murray hit those 2 game winners against the Lakers in the playoffs last year?
Yeah.
Was the play call for him to go ISO though at the end of the game, or did it just happen like that? If I could ask that question.
Like, I mean, it like the play happened. Like there was a play, like we wanted to get the ball in Jamal's hands, you know, and
Right.
now like Jamal, he's such a special talent that like once he gets the ball and gets a little advantage, like, hey, you just got to pray to God that he misses the shot, you know? And like, I've seen him hit shots like that in practice all the time. So whenever he was going downhill to the right and then hit the that fadeaway over Anthony Davis, like when it
Yeah.
was in the air, I was like, oh yeah, that's cash, because I've seen him do that so many times in practice, you know. So like, yes, the play call was to have the ball in his hands, but you know, at that point, the talent just takes over and he does what he does.
So you're currently the head video coordinator and the player development coach for the Nuggets. How are you liking both these positions, and what it's like to manage both?
I'm loving it so far. And I think that like the past 2 years that I've been an assistant video coordinator have prepared me for this opportunity. And like Andrew Munson, Connor Griffin, those two guys, they've helped me a lot to be prepared for this opportunity, you know? So I feel comfortable and excited going into this new role. But I mean, it's not really much different from what I was doing beforehand. It's just a little bit more responsibilities, though. But like I said, just from learning under those two guys' tutelage, I feel more than comfortable about this new position.
What would you say your training philosophy is when working with these guys in the gym?
So I'd say three things. One, keep it simple. I think a lot of people nowadays they're trying to get into their bag and stuff like that. But in my head, I'm like, why not work on the things that's gonna happen a lot during the game?
Fundamentals.
Yes, exactly. And I think a lot of people they're trying to do too much whenever they work out as opposed to doing the fundamentals and doing what's going to happen all the time in the game. So that's my second point. Work on what you're going to be doing in the game. So like for instance, if you're a 3-point shooter, you're probably not going to be doing all these combo
Yeah.
moves in your workout. You know, you're going to be doing a lot of either spot shots, spots on the, or like shots on the move, or something like emulating what you're going to do in the game, you know? And then the third and final thing I would say is try to make it as realistic as possible and try to have live bodies on guys.
Nice.
So a lot of times, even like if we're doing finishing, you know, it's not just like, oh, you make a move and now you're just going to finish at the rim without anybody on you, you know, because how many times does that happen in the game?
Almost
So
never.
exactly, unless you're on like a fast break or something.
Yeah.
So we're always trying to bump guys, be physical with them because that's exactly how the game's going to be, you know. And then we try to put our guys in as many live situations as possible in these workouts. So 1-on-1, 2-on-2, 3-on-3, just any type of situation or scenario that they might see. And I think with the Nuggets and a lot of NBA teams nowadays, we're all fortunate to have like younger guys either in the video room or in the player development staff. So a lot of times, like, I mean, we're out there playing 3-on-3, 4-on-4 against the guys, you know, and so it's kind of fun to talk your smack once you get some stops on those guys as well, you know. But I just am a real big believer of, you know, just trying to make it as live and realistic as possible.
So I mentioned before this that I'm a big Michael Porter Jr. fan. I watch his film all the time. What is it like getting in the gym with him and working with him?
Man, I would say Mike is like top two, maybe three hardest workers on our team, man. And I think that like to be able to see it each and every day how hard he goes, like it motivates me to do the same thing in my career, which is coaching and stuff. But then also it makes me respect him so much because I know like in the beginning of his career he was dealing with a lot of injuries and stuff like that, but I think his mental strength has allowed him to push through those injuries and stuff like that. And now that's why he's having the success that he's having. And I think that like just his work ethic, it's second to none, man. So whenever he's making these big shots in these big time games, I'm like, okay, it makes sense because you put in the work in those unseen hours where nobody was seeing you shoot thousands of shots in the gym all by yourself, or like me and two other coaches, you know. So it's it's amazing to see each and every day, you know, and for him to be that tall and doing a lot of the
Yeah.
things that he's doing, I'm like, man, like this is Kevin Durant-esque, you know, like
I
it's
was
kind of
just about to say that too.
yeah, it's pretty crazy, man.
What kind of drills do you do with him like, during your workouts?
A lot of it for him. So, like, obviously, with a lot of guys, we'll start off with the ball handling and stuff like that. We'll do finishes, but like I said, for him, we try to make it as comparable to the game as possible and try to put him in spots that he's going to be in whenever he's around Nikola, Jamal, AG, and all these other guys, you
Yeah.
know. So a lot of live stuff. If like I'm guarding him, we'll like, let's say if it's a wide action, you know,
Yeah.
I'm guarding him, like somebody's going to screen me and like he has to be able to get a shot off with the defender trying to like basically draping over him or something like that, you know. So we'll do stuff like that. And then we'll also do some isolation situations with him. So we call, if it's like 8 seconds or less on the shot clock, it's a butter situation. So everybody's calling out butter just to let the ball handler know, like, oh, well, this is going to be possibly an isolation situation for me. And so, like, a lot of times he'll have the ball at the top of the key. He has to score with like 5 seconds left on the shot clock, you know? So, like I said, just trying to replicate what's going to happen in the game with him, then as well with like somebody like myself or a bigger defender guarding him. So he just has to make tough shots, you know?
So I ask all my guests that come on the show the same question to end the interview. So, what are your future aspirations for your career moving forward?
For me, it's just to be the best at my current position. So right now I'm just trying to be the best head video coordinator that I can. Now, obviously, big picture wise, it's like I do want to be a head coach in the NBA or just anywhere, but I do know like there's levels to it and there's steps that you have to take in order to get to your big goal. Because I think like a lot of people, they have these lofty goals, but they only think about that goal and they don't think about where they're at right now. And if you're not in the present moment and like, oh, let me be the best right now, then how can you get to that bigger goal, you know? So first and foremost, like I said, just be the best head video coordinator I could be. And I know if I do that, then and if we're successful as a team, then that's going to allow me to get that next position, you know? And then, like I said, it all comes down to being a servant, you know, like I'm here to serve these guys and help them any way in which that they need. And I think if I do that, then good things will happen for me.
Of course, and you left out one key thing: more rings. We
Hey, I
need
feel
more
that,
of
man.
them. We need,
Hey, I need another one, man, or a few. You know, why just stop
why
myself at one?
not?
Let's get
Mr.
more.
Why Not's coming on the roster this year. Why not? You know what I mean?
Exactly,
Do
exactly.
you
Let's
ever?
get him one too. You know,
Oh
why
yeah,
not
he
get
needs
Russ
one.
one?
I need Russ to get a ring. You guys, you got to come through with that this year. I need that. Well, Coach Griffin, thank you so much for this opportunity today, and I wish you the best of luck going forward this season.
I appreciate you, bro. Same to you, man. And thank you so much for this opportunity for me to share my story, bro.
Thanks for listening to Gen Z Hoops. Make sure to follow, like, and subscribe on Instagram, LinkedIn, and all major social media platforms at Gen Z Hoops. You can tune in and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, and every other podcast platform on the planet. Get ready for the next episode.